Good morning. It is the Secrets from the Inside Radio Network. I'm Val Olson, and this is Greg Meekin, episode 0021. Greg, it's great
Val
to see you.
Olson. Val Olson, stop you right there. Don't you love it? Don't you love logistics? Don't you love modern day technology? You're going in and out a little bit there. So what I'll do, let's just work on your mic here. I'll do a quick opening here. I'm so excited for today. Aren't you? Can you believe it? How fun this is going to be. Welcome. Welcome. My name
You're
is
coming
Greg
in and out
Meek.
right now, too.
Okay. This is indeed Secrets from the Inside Radio Network. Opening up here, first show of the day, 9 a.m. hard start Pacific time is Continue Mission Radio. How does that sound so far, Val?
Terrible. Our connection, you're coming in and out as well.
Wow.
Before Father Mike,
Let's do a
Greg
quick
coming in and
mic
out?
check. Yeah, bring Father Mike
For-
in. Quick preview anyways.
hear-
Let's do a mic check on him.
Greg, or is he cutting in and out?
Okay.
You're in and out, Greg, on my end, so I don't know how to tell.
Can you hear me to bring Father Mike in?
I'm going to end the stream. We're going to try that. Okay, I'll bring him in. Good morning, Father Mike. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Greg, take over, see if we've got
Wow,
if your mic's
Father
in.
Micah, it looks like 1 out of 3 here. You sound great. You look great and you sound great. Can you hear me at all now, Val? Or is Justin Trudeau still trying to shut me down? Huh? Am I in and out?
Not from my end.
Well, can you hear me okay, Father Mike?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, this is great. Secrets from the Inside, how to run a live stream. Father Mike, awesome. It sounds to me then, I'm not an IT guy, but I'm guessing it's on Val's end. If you can hear me and I can hear you and we can see each other, it sounds like we're going to have a nice, great chat here. We'll let Val see on her end, just mic tests as we go. But goodness, let's just go cold here, okay? I can't tell you how excited I am to see you. It's been a while.
Yes.
It's been a while. Let me take a minute here, okay? While we settle in, I'm going to take a minute, quick little intro monologue. Again, I hope my mic sounds good. This is Continue Mission Radio by veterans for veterans. The show, as folks who follow Val and me and Father Mike and Captain James McCormick know, that Continue Mission is an international radio show every Friday night. Goes out to, after replatforms and stuff, hundreds of thousands of military vets. Continue Mission always features Captain James McCormick, Father Michael Picella, who we have on today as an exclusive, and of course, historian Rich Kilblane. To catch you up a little bit, Father Mike, this is, boy, oh boy, this is actually the 21st episode of Secrets from the Inside Radio, and the, if I'm counting right, third Continue Mission broadcast. What we're doing is on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is noon your time. We're doing, Val Olson and I, because we've done many of the Continue Missions, as you know, as a guest and as co-hosts. I always joke to Captain James, I think that when Val and I hosted that one evening, I think we set a record, Father Mike. We're going to have Captain James fact check that, but it was something like 200,000 that night. So this indeed, Wednesdays, I call it a rapid deployment of Continue Mission, just continuing the mission to an additional, bigger, broader type of audience, or at least variety of audience, to indeed continue the mission of God, family, and freedom, as simple as it is. So I welcome you to the show. We'll see how Val goes as far as her sound, but I'm going to turn the mic over to you for a little bit here. First and foremost, again, welcome. You look great, by the way. You just look fabulous on camera. First and foremost, on Past Secrets from the Inside show, the train ticket, if you will, the currency is telling a secret that you've never said publicly before. And I'll tell you what, James, in the past, you should hear the secrets we've heard in the past, man. so we're going to continue that tradition. Always on my broadcasts, as you know, Father, is real relaxed fun. We like to have fun and be relaxed. I do want to get into really cool subjects with you. I do want to hear about your background. You have an amazing background. I want to hear about your military service because you got secrets there. You're a captain, chaplain. Goodness gracious, I won't let the cat out of the bag, though. Also, your return from Vietnam. You're a Vietnam vet. And indeed, which I know we'll get into, but indeed why family and faith matters to you. So at least let's take maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes here. Introduce yourself. I'm going to put my mute button on and listen to you. And I cannot wait to chat further. Go ahead, Father Mike.
Well, thank you, Greg and Val. It's an honor to be with you today. And I'd like to share a little bit about my life. I turned 70 this year, so I have a lot to reflect on. I joined the military at 17, and I initially was going to go in the Marine Corps, and then I wound up going into the Navy, and I served with submarines on a task force, a carrier group off the coast of Vietnam. Many, many years later, 23 years later, I entered the Army as a first lieutenant in the reserves for 2 years. And then I became a captain, and I went to Fort Bragg on active duty, and I went to a number of different places as I had done in the reserves as well. I also was an ethics professor. I functioned in a 04 slot, but a lot of experience. I grew up in the projects in Newark, New Jersey. My father was a 100% disabled vet. We were a very poor family. And I did not take advantage of the educational opportunities. I got involved in gang activity and drinking at an early age. And so my life was pretty messed up, during the Vietnam era, as was most of society. But the Lord really encountered me on December 24th, 1971, and in a more miraculous way, on January 18th, on a Tuesday at 2:00 indoors, 1972. And since then, I've had a great journey. I was able to get my GED after failing it the first time. I was allowed to go to a Jesuit college because of my experience with the Lord during Vietnam. And then that's the history. I then went on after finishing a bachelor's degree and a master's of divinity from Yale University, a theology master's from Harvard University, postgraduate, and a doctorate. I did most of my doctoral work at Cambridge University in England with the Orthodox and finished with the Orthodox on this side, where I got my PhD. I'm married 48 years. We're allowed to marry. I've been in ministry 50 years, 5 adopted children. We lost. Go ahead.
Keep going, Father Mike.
We lost one of our daughters at age 24, 8 years ago. Very difficult. But we had fostered over 40 children in 7 years. My wife is a very incredible person. Like I said, we've been married 48 years. And so, living the dream, teaching at university, teaching in our seminary, working hard in the theological commission, and just just a lot of important things that I'm called to do. I still work with the Army. I just got off a meeting with the ROTC at the College of William and Mary and Christopher Newport University. And so we're just really engaged in a lot of things. I also, serve along with Captain James McCormick and Rich Kilblain on the Continued Mission radio broadcast podcast on a Friday night. And so I'm really excited to be here and to answer any questions. And if I'm supposed to divulge the secret, which is the ticket, is really, even though I was in the Navy and in the Army, I worked along with Marines during Vietnam. Secretly, I wanted to be a Marine. And I worked with the Special Forces and different guys at Fort Bragg. And it was a great thing, the Maroon Beret, the whole 9 yards. But I have a great admiration for the United States Marine Corps.
So would you describe yourself as a closet U.S. Marine?
Yes. Yes.
You know, I'll tell you something, Father Mike. I just can't tell you. If I sound passionate or emotional today, is because I am. To reconnect with you, it was like 2 years ago that we first started working with you and Captain James. So the one thing I just wanted to make a side note here, I've met a lot of military peeps down here in the United States, mainly because it's just God's timing. I was a finance guy in the middle of a military market in Bremerton, Washington, Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. So through just still people to this day, military folks, we keep in touch. I was once given a tour of the USS, I can't believe I'm saying this, USS Carl Vinson by the commanding officer. Because I built an ice arena there. You know that from the Northeast, New Jersey and New York, ice arenas and hockey and stuff. But I will say about the Marines, you brought up the Marines. I have yet to meet one person that disrespects the United States Marines, including within all the corps.
Yes.
You just spurred my mind here with the Marines. I'm not going to take up the whole segment, but I lived right next door to in Kitsap County, Washington, to the Bangor Trident nuclear subbase. Bangor. And once again, being in finance, I got to meet all these people, who are buying cars, and everyone from officers to enlisted guys that were really, really low. We just call them E's, E nothings, E zeros, all the way up to admirals, commanders. But Deborah and I live so close to Bangor subbase, we could hear taps at night.
Wow.
And but I ran into a young gentleman. I say this, I'm going to tie it right back to the Marines. We're going to take all the time we need today, Father. We're going to share, man. This is going to be fun. And I had a young Marine. He was barely 19 years old. He was buying a little car. And it was so cool. And as usual, I just quizzed these kids, and I found out that he worked on Bangor. He's 19 years old. Most of the guys over there were nuclear guys, right? Highly trained, $50,000 reenlistment bonuses for nukes. But this guy, 19-year-old, no credit, nice kid, real respectful. I said, "So you work on Bangor? What do you do there?" And he said, "I'm sorry, sir, that's classified." There were, I guess, there were 200 of them that would basically, covertly or not, man the perimeter of Bangor subbase. So there's my secret from the inside. But U.S. Marine, from 19 years old, what a great kid. I'm going to just turn it back to you here. I've blabbered enough, Father. It's so nice to have you on.
Well, with the education, whenever God gives you opportunities, there's great responsibility. And I've taught in many of the universities on the peninsula here a various array of courses, from ethics to critical thinking to theology, and to interact with the younger people. I just had a interesting mentoring experience with one of the cadets the other day, and it's just really important. And I know we're eventually going to talk about this grade 13, that the young people really need mentoring. They're not looking for us to be cool. They're looking for sages. They're looking for some wisdom. They're looking for someone who has lived their life and for the most part have done it right. And so it's really an incredible opportunity in a whole lot of different venues. I taught in a HBCU for 7 years. I taught in a Catholic university for 11 years. I taught at Regent University. I taught in community college. I taught in the College of William and Mary. I taught at Christopher Newport University. And as a priest, even in the business school, they wanted a priest's perspective as far as ethics is concerned. And so I'm really concerned about the next generation, about all they lost through COVID. I was teaching with a mask on, and a lot of the students unfortunately milked it, didn't come to class. And I would say, I'm 3 times your age. I got the shots, I got the mask, and let's get on with it. But I really think that there needs to be a gap year. But I also think that we in our generation, speaking to you, Greg, and I, need to model, for people. The scripture says that we are supposed to look at the lives of those that have gone before us and imitate them, especially if they've been successful, not as the world calls success, but they've done things that are monumental, that they're going to leave a legacy. And so I really think that there's a great need for us to impart wisdom, the way to live, not to be afraid to take calculated risks and things of that nature. I've also had the opportunity to publish a couple of books, and just recently my dissertation for my PhD is being published. I just had to go over the last review before it goes to press. And so I just think that all the experiences I have had from the projects of Newark, New Jersey, to the halls of Harvard, and all the travel I've done with the military and otherwise, we want to now harness so that we can impart that to the next generation so that they have something to go on. They have hope, and they're encouraged. And this one person that I had about a 45-minute session with in an interview, I could tell that they were intrigued but also challenged. And I hope we can do that in serving the next generation.
Father, you're talking fatherhood, mentorship, the younger generations. As you know, and anyone knows, I talk about it all the time. I'm very concerned, especially about Gen Z. Those are the kids, basically registered voters, 18 to 26 right now. We have the alphas that are younger. They're getting into their teens now, 12, 13, 14 years old. And here's a first for you, a little exclusive here. After the alphas, the younger ones, I believe are going to be called the beta generation B, and they're not quite born yet. Okay. But these younger generations, as we've talked about a lot, they're the key. They're the key to the military, to the country's leadership. They're the key to the home front. They are now, and I'm going to defend them. Father, I really want your take on this. I'm going to defend a lot of them. There are a lot of kids right now, Gen Zs. These are the kids in their early 20s and stuff, and teens. These are the paramedics and the firefighters and the lots of military guys. Sheriff Mark Lamb said, you got Gen Zs and millennials that are the best soldiers ever. So my question to you is, you spend a lot of your time and a lot of your history is relating to the younger generation, being the professor. You're the prof. And the father prof. When we're growing up, I was raised with a lot of Catholics in Montreal, French Canadian, all Catholics. So talk to me and Val a little bit on that, of how do we as older people how do we communicate to the younger generation? What can we do and what do we say? Because there's a lot of them who are totally coachable and open to this kind of new information.
Well, what I found teaching critical thinking, I taught critical thinking for 4 years. I just stopped last year, 3 courses a semester. And what has happened in our education system is people are told what to think, but not how to think. So I had to challenge them. I had one student say, before I had this class, I was bullying 14-year-olds on TikTok. And really to teach classical argumentation and debate and critical thinking, critical reading. And so I'm concerned that the generation is monolithic. I had one class at a very prominent college, and I would give them the pro of the particular situation we were discussing on Monday, the con on Wednesday, and it could be anything from abortion to capital punishment, anything. And then on a Friday, there were 40 in the class. I would try to have 4 groups of 10 and come to a moral consensus. But what I have found, although I'm sure there's eager young people to do a lot of things, although there's been a lot of fear mongering going on about climate change and things of that nature. But I just hope that they become better educated. I feel like there's a lot of propaganda and that they'll be willing to read things from both sides of the fence, if you will. So my own encounter with them is they're not independent thinkers. They're very monolithic and they've overheard a lot, but they haven't taken a deep dive. And so I'm encouraged about them, but I'm not encouraged about the education that they're receiving for the most part. You have to self-educate to help this process along.
Father, just to switch gears before my pre-dementia mind forgets. Take a few minutes, if you would, because I really want to talk about this stuff, this mentorship and generational stuff. Take a few minutes for you, okay, for Father Mike. Tell even me a little bit about your service in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of new. I didn't realize you were such a bad boy when you were young. I kind of knew, but not really. I'm 1970s Montreal, dude.
When I went to get some disability, you know, because I was enlisted and an officer, the first thing the doctor asked me about Vietnam, he said, "Were you a killer?" I said, "No. I was in an aircraft carrier group. I was in navigation department. I navigated up and down the Vietnam coast, up and down. You know, we had air operations. We mined Haiphong Harbor." One of the things that really helped me at 17 and 18 is when I got my fitness reports. And the LPO, the leading petty officer in E6, wrote and said he needs little or no supervision. And I really credit my parents in allowing me to embrace a lot of responsibility at a young age. That's why I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for my college students that can't keep their schedules right and get their assignments in. Now, I was out for 23 years. My father was 100% disabled. I was in a war zone. My father was going to die in 3 months. I finished the tour and I was let out. But I still felt a need to come back in to pay back. And also, I didn't feel like I completed. So I came back in at age 41 in the reserves. I did a lot of reserve work for 2 years. And then I went on active duty at 43. I was lean and mean at 43, and I was sent to Fort Bragg. And I put altogether 10 years, and they offered me what's called voluntary indefinite, where I could have stayed in for the rest of the time. But my bishop at the time, an archbishop from the province of D.C., asked me to come out and put a mission here in Williamsburg, Virginia. And so I was able to continue my education as well with my GI Bill post 9/11 as well. But I love the military. I've always worked with the military, even as a pastor. I've even gone out to the field not last semester, but semester before. So you earn a healing. You suffer with them in the cold. Just got off of a command and staff meeting. Met a general recently and the brigade commander who know that when I got out of the military, they put me back in uniform because they didn't have enough instructors. And I've been the chaplain at the College of William and Mary and at Christopher Newport University for over 20 years. And so I love that contact. but I also know that we have a stewardship to give to them what wasn't given to us. My father was non functional. He was 100% disabled vet, but he had a lot of issues. Before they put him back in a VA hospital, he was in jail, in prison, and psychiatric ward. So I didn't have the mentoring. Now, my son, who was with the Special Forces and the Navy SEALs as an infantryman, really a tanker in Afghanistan, I was able to give. I adopted him when he was 2, almost 3. I was able to give him what I never received. But there are a lot of fatherless young people, a lot of breakdown in the family. So I really feel that we've got to position ourselves where we can give input. This person I was mentoring the other day was just fascinated by certain things because you're sometimes in a cocoon and you're naive and you're just in your little bubble. I found, especially in Europe, when I was doing my PhD, the Europeans are a lot more astute educationally than we are. The food in England stinks. I say that as an Italian, but the education and the beautiful gardens and the
Right.
beautiful buildings, and sometimes we're a little bit myopic, from sea to shining sea, and so I have hope for our next generation, but I think we have to step up and offer them the necessary mentoring and fathering.
Father Mike, by the way, I agree with you. England and I find Canada way more focused on college degrees and education. All of my Canadian friends up there, well, all their kids have college degrees, and I don't see it. Say what you will. Totally love the Grade 13th, the civic service, the Charlie Kirks of the world, and all that stuff. But say what you will. I was always taught in Canada that no matter what, simply the discipline to know what, no matter what, be able to complete that curriculum is indeed a process unto itself, something to celebrate unto itself. But before I digress there, you mentioned earlier that you were in a world of hurt when your dad was literally unfunctional. I want to ask you, how did you get through that? Fatherless society is responsible for all the craziness now. You know that. We know that. Fatherless households. Yes, indeed, Jesus is the father to the fatherless. Okay, but you still need dads in the household.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get through that? And did you have like a mentor or two that changed your life? Go ahead, take all the time you need, Father Mike.
I first looked to the gang. It was like a fraternity, and we got beatings, and someone to discipline you, someone to make you toe the line. I looked to some of my uncles, but to be honest, not all of them were really good examples. So then I went in the military, and I looked to some other men, for mentoring, maybe in professionalism. And I did meet some Christian men. Rich Carbone, a guy from Tacoma, Washington, was real instrumental in my walking with Christ. And there were some other people in my division that were. And then when I got out, I went to a local church, and there was a pastor. He recently passed away. That really took a prominent place in discipling me and mentoring me. And the scripture says, if you want to be wise, walk with the wise. And I've really sought out older people. My father confessor right now is 89. He's a retired priest, but we have to go to confession once a month. And it's just great to be around those that can give you the fatherly wisdom. Now, even when I was in an evangelical church, I would be sent Father's Day cards, because what the Lord did is, because of that vacuum in my life, God has created in me the ability to father others, to provide leadership for others, example for others, mentoring for others. So it's very difficult, and it still hurts a great deal. Even my godfather, he was a real ruffian, um, did not fill the gap. But I knew that if I was going to give my son what he needed, and my son was a champion wrestler, he was a wonderful soldier, I had to receive some kind of mechanism in my life so that I could give him what I never received myself. So, as a priest, as someone who's called father every day, but by all kinds of people, I realize how important that position is as a protector, as a mentor. But there are a lot of surrogates that are taking the place of those who failed, whether it be a natural father or a spiritual father. I still have calls from my church that I pastored from 1977 to 1997, from some of the men there that I mentored, that I am their spiritual father. And now I guess I'm a spiritual grandfather to some folks, but it's a great, great need. And if you don't allow it to be put into your own life, you can't provide it. And I knew that, my son came out of a bad situation, that I had to have it for him. So I had to humble myself and receive a surrogate so that I could get input in my life so that I can then give it to others.
Father Mike, have we told you we're enjoying having you on the show today? This is fantastic. And this is what we hear on Continue Mission. It's not just stuff, it's stuff that's of interest to people. Every single show, I tell Val this, I like to learn stuff from my own show. People that come on want to learn something. There are a lot of people out there that know it all. And unfortunately, those folks I'm not interested in broadcasting to. It's the coachable, it's the people that actually are open to, again, fatherhood, mentorship, all that stuff. I'm always deeply moved to see what got people through, like what you're talking about here, of how you survived, and that our responsibility as older guys is to indeed now pass on our wisdom, our knowledge, our lessons, our coaching, our fatherhood, or just an attaboy to the younger generations. Mark Lamb insists, Father, that that Generation X dropped the ball. That they were raised by who would be you and me and our fathers and grandfathers, and learned all of that. And a lot of Gen X guys, that's 40s and 50s now, busy guys, but they have those manners. But they dropped the ball teaching it to the younger kids because they don't have any of the ethics, the morals. We've talked about this, the manners. Hello. I'm going to kick it back to you a little bit here, on that issue. Talking to younger people, what do we do? You know what? I'm going to do it a different way. Remember grade 13, 1 year civic service? Believe it or not, I did a search on my YouTube channel today. And do you realize, Father Mike, that there are, I'm guessing, 15 to 20 clips on my YouTube channel of this exact issue, including you and me, lots of you talking about this 1 year civic service. I'm going to, if this is okay, because again, long form radio, we have plenty of time. We got all the time. And if I need to carry this over past the top of the hour, your schedule permitting, totally open to that. But I have in front of me what spurred this conversation, and it was live on air, Continue Mission. You and James broke it with me because I just published. It's called Grade 13 for All. Imagine that. Look at Val. Goodness gracious. How professional is this, Father Mike? Can you see that on the screen? Anyway,
yes, I can.
I'm going to take a quick minute because I did not do this on that Continue Mission broadcast, which was fantastic. But this I first published, because I've been talking about this for a while, on March 20th, 2024. I'm going Generation X now and multitasking with my laptop. I'm going to actually read a little bit here, Father Mike. I wanted to go over simply the checklist of what I proposed. And there's lots of chat about this 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, whatever. But the point being, I'm making it a 1 year because I think that's just a doable goal out of the gate. But here we go. Grade 13 for all. Grade 13 for all. March 20th, 2024. Forget K through 12. I propose K through 13 with 1 year of civic service after high school. I published this idea 2 years ago and have included that excerpt from why I came to America and what I think now. Highlights of grade 13 program. I also called it a springboard to success, which I think is what you coined it, Father Mike, on the air. Springboard to success. Number one, mandatory for all U.S. students. Number two, a paid internship, a 40-hour per week at minimum wage or higher. Captain McCormick suggested E3 pay as a starting gate. Paid internship. So number three, huge, student choices. Military training or law enforcement, trade schools, the Peace Corps, the Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, and endless other possibilities. Number four, the curriculum is to include studies of the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, the Pledge of Allegiance, household financial management, manners, verbal and written skills, and yes, a working understanding of the English language and others. Number five, students do not graduate from high school without successfully completing year 13. I love that. Number six, the program mirrors selective service registration and includes males and females. We talked about that, Father. It includes males and females and is conditional to earning future federal benefits programs such as the GI Bill, VA mortgages, government loans and grants, etc. Number seven, most importantly, Father Mike, most importantly, number seven, no exceptions, no diversions or college enrollment. Most institutions, here you go, will give full credit for grade 13. And all students will start fresh in year 14 via college, employment, wherever they go. There you go. That was an excerpt. And I just wanted to kind of get that on the record because there are some key points there. But I'm just going to once again turn it back to you. A big thank you to Val for posting that. You should be a facilitator of radio shows, Val. You do this real good, eh? You do that good. So I appreciate that. How's your mic, by the way? A quick mic check here, Val.
I think I'm back in play.
No, you're not.
No?
The Alberta government's probably watching out for you, Val. Boy, I tell you, Father, those folks up in Alberta, they're scared of vowels. Anyhow, the grade 13, the 1 year civic service, you had a lot. And as I say, I encourage folks to go to my YouTube channel and just looking at the Father Pacella clips. Take as long as you need, 2, 3, 5 minutes, and just respond to that, because that's indeed what we reacted to that night on Continue Missions.
The first thing, most of the students that I meet that are freshmen in college really don't have any idea about their direction. I think a high school education when my father went to school is probably equivalent to an associate's degree today. But I don't know that people have had many examples of their fathers and uncles and cousins pursuing certain things. Civic responsibility and manners, protocol, just the basic things in life that if you don't acquire them, you can't be successful. I love the list. I think it's comprehensive. And I really think it takes the pressure off some who have to take out these big loans. That's why I've encouraged people to consider ROTC when they really don't know what they want to do when they grow up. So I think this gives an opportunity, as we said, to be an internship. There's some income, so you feel like you have some direction. And if you experience things like the Peace Corps or the Red Cross or some military recruitment of sorts, some military. Um, what I'm trying to look for is kind of something that you'd be able to follow and see what it's like, internship type of thing. Then I think it gives you a chance, it gives you a little breathing room, to then enter into adulthood, because you're really not an adult. And I can tell you from working with the students, just by the way they think, the way they reason, the way they lack the discipline of a real schedule. Now, for the most part, there are always exceptions. So I think this is very important. It would be a great service to our country to make up for the time that was lost, especially during COVID.
Father Mike, I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Fabulous feedback, by the way. Thank you. I have a question on that. One of the most controversial positions I take on my grade 13 blueprint, springboard to success. Boy, I like that. Is mandatory. There's no college enrollment for that first year. Because obviously, I don't want to get into it about professional students and military diversions and draft dodgers and all that stuff. But no, it is considered a grade 13. And after that year, all the colleges, because guess what, Father? All the colleges and all the employers and stuff will be lined up at the door for these kids. You got a built-in employment base right there. Comment on that. And do you think that especially the university elite, you know who they are, the elite who know it all. Could you imagine them accepting that or not trying to somehow create diversions or whatever? Could people do that additional year of high school with no college allowed?
Think about the concept of recruiting. When we recruit in the military, we're looking for an athletic person, a person who has some aptitude to embrace hardship, to be a person who's not afraid to go outdoors. And I think so too. College sometimes are very short sighted and not seeing a well rounded person. Oh, yeah, they look at extracurricular activities. But if you accomplish something like this, like I said, it is a springboard for success, because you've already quantified the fact that you can accomplish something, and you have all these extra pieces of your skill set. And so I agree that those looking to recruit those who will be successful would like to recruit someone who has already been successful. High school, there's a lot of inflated grades, there's a lot of competition to get in, but you don't have the substance along with the image. You look at some people's resumes, and it's kind of like a cloud with no water, to use a biblical metaphor. And I think this would really cause people, to put the pedal to the metal and to really prove what they can accomplish. When I got that compliment in the military, when they gave me my fitness report, he needs little or no supervision. I was 17, 18 years old. That's because I had to work at a young age. I had responsibility. I was ready for life. And I think that's what the grade 13 would do. And I think those who recruit would look favorably upon those who went through these many skill sets to be prepared to be successful in college. Most of my students fail out. When I went to school, it was about a 50% attrition rate. Now it's about 40%. They don't know how to discipline their free time. They don't know how to discipline time to study. This would enable them to do that. And they would actually get paid and feel like they're accomplishing something.
Mike, I want to jump in for a minute and just touch on recently a guest on Continue Mission radio show, which is Friday nights through Blog Talk Radio, was your dear wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, your mic's definitely down. I'm actually getting a little suspicious of there has been even Father Mike on Continue Mission, kind of nefarious stuff maybe behind the scenes, where we lost your whole platform one night, and your Mike, someone in the world does not want to hear you talk today, Val. I already miss your voice. I miss Miss Val, but that's the way it goes. Well, welcome to live radio. And can you imagine? And can you imagine, Father Mike, the kind of stuff we're talking about now? We can't get truth from anything, including our own government. We don't trust anybody. Sure, there might be innocent broadcasts like this and interfered with from shall I say, a bunch of loser trolls or whatever, whatever they are, forgive me for going hockey on that. But can you imagine we're talking about this stuff? That, oh, sure, someone's probably interfering with Val's microphone. So either way, oddly, it's fun. The two folks on the screen here, Father Mike and Greg, the two older guys, we're United States, we're U.S. folks, and you have the connections up in Canada, Val. I'll just put that out as maybe the first step of our investigation to see what happened to your mic today. Father Mike, a quick jump branch about something you said earlier. You were talking about, again, the mentorship and how joyful it was to feel when you changed someone's life. Jordan Peterson says, and he contends, that no matter how much we get going in life and how exciting our life can be, there's nothing greater than knowing that you, as a mentor, a father, pastor, father, whatever, changed someone's life. Do you have, because you said that happened to you with mentors in your past, do you have a story or two of where you realize on your own, wow, that's what I'm on this earth for?
Oh, absolutely. The scripture says that a disciple is not above his teacher, but when he is fully trained, he will be like him. I have trained many adult men, one in particular I'm thinking about, for about 12 years, teaching them things they never learned growing up, which hindered their progress in life. And there are some men that don't have an affirming male. When my son was coming up, my wife was a special ed teacher and an administrator, and she could deal with him. But at a certain age, he needed my size 12 foot. He needed my love. He needed my encouragement. And I couldn't be prouder of my son. He's a real man of iron. He's a longshoreman now. He's just a part of that strike. And he's also a man of velvet. He's a rugged man, and he's also a gentleman. I told you that I left my one church after 20 years, and I still have men who look to me for encouragement, for mentoring, for theological issues. And once, like Elijah and Elisha, once you put your mantle over someone and you're willing to lift up their head, people will continue to pursue, because you're nurturing something in their lives. And especially if they haven't had a functional father or a man in their lives to encourage them in many different ways. So I can think of so many people. I'll tell you one in particular. I started mentoring him at 15. His father died when he was 15, and his sister was in our parish. And he's now 55. And he became very successful. I helped him through some rough times in his life. And he became an engineer and an MBA and very successful. But there's still a need for him to reach out and to have fatherly wisdom. I had another guy the other day, had a good friend die suddenly. And I've had people call me from former parishes, will you do my funeral? And there's something about fathering and imparting wisdom, but also acquiring all that you can so you have more to give. Someone said it to me this way, who mentored me: I'm like a refrigerator. Come and open it and take whatever you want. And so I'm excited. I teach seminary and I teach young deacons and priests. And I'm real excited to be able to share from my experience. So I think that we have to step up, our generation, and not look to go to the golf courses and to retire. And so we can leave a better world. One of the greatest things in my life is my children still call me for counsel. They're all very independent, high achievers. My one daughter is going to be going to medical school. She got married a couple of years ago, had a baby this last year, got accepted in medical school she didn't want to go to, but she's going to go. And that they still call me, and I know the parameters. My older daughter, because we had no children for 10 years, will be 40, and that they still want to talk. And my one son or daughter, my son, he wrote a Father's Day card. I thank you for all that you've taught me and all that you're going to teach me. That's the greatest thrill of my life. And I also want to be teachable and coachable and learn. Okay. I would do postdoctoral work, or my wife would be very upset if I did, but I'm a very much a lifelong earner. I started my PhD at age 59. And so I just think that the stage is set, and everybody may not buy into it, but for those who see that it's a good idea, it's a God idea, we should offer it to prove, like a pilot program, that it will work. And then I think we can, sell it on a larger scale.
Father Mike, are you sure you're the age you are? You sound as feisty as like a 28-year-old. Wake up in kindergarten every day. I love people that love to learn every day, and it's nice to see a living example of that. Serious kind of side note here, Jordan Peterson, who I follow everywhere, he said the greatest, when you've been a great parent, is if as adults, your kids would want to hang out with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or just call you to BS.
Mm-hmm.
And because oddly, I always look at things in perspectives. Nothing's 100%. If you have a relationship with like that with your kids, my son today, my son Colton called me this morning. He's in Fort Myers, Florida, with the hurricane coming over. But he got to safety in Miami. But that kind of thing. If your kids would just like to hang out with you, you've been a great parent. Do you agree with Dr. Peterson on that?
I do, because what I've had to learn, though, is, my son went to war. He's a father. He has a very good paying job. He's been married like 14 years. That the relationship is different. I let my children know I'm not your peer. Okay. I've never tried to be your friend, but I love you. I'm for you. I'm encouraging you to take calculated risks. I don't want you to have any regrets. And so my wife will say, well, the kids are always calling you. And I was a disciplinarian. My wife was a good disciplinarian as far as classroom management when she taught. But I didn't try to be buddy. But I love them. I've always been affectionate. I've always took time with them, irrespective of how busy I was. And that's a great honor for me. And after losing a child, let me tell you this. If my son or somebody tries to call, I don't put them off, because I spoke to my one daughter the last time and I didn't know it was the last time. So you take that a little more seriously.
Boy, you always get me emotional, Father. I'm glad that you're my Catholic father priest. Okay, because I know I was raised Protestant, lots of Catholics. I have so many Mormon buddies. I have two Mormon bishop buddies up in Seattle. Imagine that. But I want to switch gears real quick. I really appreciate that feedback. I want to switch gears real quick, because before we do, we're not going to need to do a hard wrap up here. I'm just going to go continue on here, your schedule permitting. I want to update two quick things. Shout out from Captain James McCormick to us, all three of us, and quiet Miss Val. Oh, there's Captain. You see what Val does there? You see how professional she is as our facilitator? But it's funny, she's on mute today, self-imposed mute, Father, because her mic sounds like garbage. But shout out from Captain James. He's traveling from Texas, I think, back to D.C. He spent yesterday with George W. Bush. and was asked by W to speak at his presidential library yesterday. So shout out. James is actually going to, in flight, try and parachute in here today. Pending. The other, I just got off a text literally minutes ago here with the Sheriff Mark Lamb. You well know Sheriff Lamb. Side note, I think he's going to be in the Trump cabinet. There's a side note secret right there, Father. I love the idea of Department of Homeland Security. Anyhow, we won't go there today, Father. But shout out from Sheriff Mark Lamb. He is, I don't think he's always invited. I don't think he's able to pop in today, but he shouts out to you, to me, to Val. He's very much into this mentorship thing. I did a whole, Val and I covered last show, a whole segment, including a beautiful video of Sheriff Lamb's youth redevelopment program. Youth redevelopment program, meaning intervening when they're 10 to 15 years old, and it's horse therapy and in a multi-curriculum for 90 days. Absolutely phenomenal. So once again, the Mark Lambs shout out. I really hope to see Captain McCormick pop in. Again, I simply am giddy to have you on today, Father Mike. Before I forget, which I often do, I'd like you to take a quick minute. You very often gloss over your, not, I don't say gloss over, but again, when we're older, everything's in decades, right? Everything's just little highlights. But your service, actually, you were a quote chaplain, right, in your role. And as you say, you were I'm not going to say a peacenik, but definitely not. You did not go into the military for infantry reasons. You went in for spiritual reasons. Do you have an actual story were you ever in a situation where bullets were flying around? You have stories, any story? I always corner Captain McCormick on that, because younger people love to hear that. If, again, you've heard the dire straits that the captains and the Sammy Davises and all those guys have been in. Do you have any story like that you'd like to share if you like?
Because I was on a carrier group, some of the bodies that were lost, whether by plane crash or whatever, they would be put into the refrigeration. And so, as a young man, as you're going to chow, you're seeing these bodies. So death is around you. We had the highest ranking admiral in the Vietnam War killed off of my ship. And so not so much because we had flight operations. You could see the bombs going off, from a distance, but nothing directly. One time we had a plane that was coming on that wasn't from our carrier, and we thought it was a MiG, and everybody got all upset. And it was from another carrier. He had gotten lost. So there was death reeking all around, several funerals at sea, but no real harm per se to me personally. But there always is in training. Of course, when I was in the Army, it was different. But nothing, like my son. My son was in an 8-hour battle in Afghanistan, and his St. Michael's medal broke, and he goes, uh-oh. And I said, it's just a holy reminder. It's not magic, but not to that degree. I believe I volunteered to go into Da Nang, and then the war got really hot. As a matter of fact, Bob Hope couldn't come and be with us because it was too dangerous. But I was never in a direct situation like that. One quick story. When I was teaching in the same school that Captain James went to, I was teaching Marines, and this Marine captain kept looking at my helmet bag because I had all my patches of places I had been. And come to find out, his father was attached to us, and his father got killed during the Vietnam War. And I was able to bring him back to my office and show him my cruise book and show him a picture of his father. It was just a fascinating situation to be able to make that connection.
Wow. You mentioned Bob Hope a little earlier. You and I, again, we'll have old guys talk here around a campfire sometime, but the Bob Hope days, the USO days, I'm dear friends with the commander of the USO up in the Northwest for the West Coast, and they're still doing amazing things. Gary Sinise, you might know, he does the Lieutenant Dan Band where he travels around for the USO. Gary Sinise, what an angel right there. And he has the RISE program, the housing program for disabled vets, much like Tunnel for Towers and stuff. Very lots and lots of guys contributing to the cause, Father. On your actual service in Vietnam, on the aircraft carrier. Okay, and again, always to allow me to digress here. Quick question, because aircraft carrier guys are very often connected. Again, guys fly in and out and stuff. I've heard a lot of boys who've met presidents and stuff. Silly question, but have you met any presidents who are the most anyone just famous that you might have bumped into because of your service? I know Captain James has got just a laundry list, but anyone or any story there?
Not that I can recollect right off. I mean, I've met a number of wonderful people. I just met a general the other day who is the deputy over Fort Knox in the Cadet Command. Robert Gates, the former defense secretary, has heard me pray many, many, many times. He's the chancellor of the College of William and Mary, and I give the prayers at the commencement. So I've shook his hand, but he's heard me pray many, many times. So I think that's about it.
How cool is that, though? I mean, who you do meet just in happenstance.
Yeah.
Don't you think God's in all this stuff, synchronicity and all that stuff?
Absolutely.
But that's fascinating to hear you say that. And again, the people that you run into. My question too, if it kind of another side note question. I always love my side note questions. My question to you is again for our audience that doesn't know you, sometimes not me. A lot of folks don't know me or want to forget me, Father. But tell me a little bit about your books, okay, and where we can get them. And you've done more than one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so just take 5 minutes and stuff to update you. We're going to carry this over right now.
Okay.
So go ahead, just chat all you like here, Father Mike.
Thank you so much. The first one is From Valor to Virtue, the Moral Development of the Brave. I teach in police academies, University of Maryland, Hampton Roads, and also I share my experience as an enlisted person and as an officer. And the publisher was really interested in me doing this because he didn't think I could break it down kind of for the sergeant, kind of middle management person. But it's been very successful. I've used it in a course that I've taught on the college level. It can be found on Amazon. From Valor to Virtue, the Moral Development of the Brave, my father, Michael Pacello III. Another book is God Was Not Silent. Oftentimes we wonder where God was. There's some people who believe there were 400 years where God was silent. There were no prophets raised up. And I talk about the era of the Maccabees. And the Jews celebrate Hanukkah today because of the great miracle that took place during that time. And it really gives a case for the forgotten books. They're very important historically, and it's called God Was Not Silent. Now, I have my dissertation, my PhD dissertation is going to be published soon. And if I could get it up here real quickly, I can get you the name of it. And basically, it'll be broken down. But it's kind of the reconciliation between the East and the West over teachings on the Virgin Mary. And when I did my research, a lot of what I found I didn't want to be true. And if you have integrity, you bow to the literature. I researched 5 years for my PhD. I did some papers in Europe, Oxford, one of the places, Thessaloniki, Athens. And so that should be coming out anytime now because it had to go through peer review, editing, and I had a last look at it. And that should be coming out on the religious front. But the ethics book, because I taught laws of war, Geneva Hague Conventions, when I was in the Army, because I was an ethics professor in an '04 slot. I won. Matter of fact, Rich Kilblain and I competed against each other. I won Instructor of the Quarter, Instructor of the Year, 2002, and I really enjoyed, teaching Nuremberg trials, laws of war, different moral parameters. And so this one book, most sergeant majors and officers that read it, they believe it's must reading for cadets and new soldiers. From Valor to Virtue, the moral development of the brave. Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity.
Well, that's so cool. People don't know unless you've published a book how much goes into it.
Yeah.
I remember I pulled up a book. I've written a couple. I always keep mine handy, but I remember I pulled this one up to Sheriff Mark Lamb. This is just for fun here while we're on the subject. This one right here, it's called Secrets from the Inside. That goes back to 1991, How to Buy a New Car Below Dealer Cost. One of the first, oh, there you go. Look at Val Olson, man, behind the scenes, facilitating. That's a classic cover right there. But Sheriff Mark Lamb picked up that book. We did a campfire chat. One of my famous Secrets from the Inside campfire chat. It's going on 3 years ago, where we talked about a lot of stuff. It ended up being an hour and 15-minute interview, unedited. There's clips there on my YouTube channel and stuff, but I'm going to release that campfire full video one of these days. But Mark had said he pulled up this book, and it's seeing what your books and what you put into those. Mark pulled up that book and he said, people don't realize what it takes to just produce something, even a nice, simple book, well done. They don't realize. And what he said also was he leaned back and he said, and people don't care. People don't care, and especially in this apathetic day of people not buying a lot of stuff, whatever, and content just coming at us in fire hoses of content. But I said, Mark, I took him aside. I stopped him. Val remembers this because she was at the campfire. I said, no, you don't write. You write it for you. Mm. You write it for you, that no matter what, let's assume you have one reader or perhaps the one person that changes its life, their life. There's all that, but you write it for you just to complete something. One thing I've found in the three things I've published in the past is you just kind of feel complete, like you got it off your mind. Look at you, Val Olson, Why I Came to America and What I Think Now by Greg Meekin, currently available for $5 as an ebook in Kindle. And Secrets from the Inside. Look at you, Val. But Secrets from the Inside is no longer available. It's out of print. You can't buy it even if you want to. But I know there's probably a dozen hidden copies somewhere, Father. You know how that goes. But again, Mark had said, no one cares. I said, sure, you do it for you. Can you comment on that and what kind of behind the scenes, not in length or anything, just publishing your books, the first one and then the last one?
I were given these lectures. I had an 8-hour seminar to give at the University of Maryland, the Police Academy. And so I compiled all that important information. And there was a change in my schedule one year, and I was able to put it all together. And I think it is a great service, just like many books that I read where people have put the work in. But it is something that you can look at your body of work and realize what you've learned. And then basically you want to share it with others. But basically, it's the core of who you are. It's not what you think, it's who you are that you're really trying to convey.
And a side comment, if you have a comment here, Captain James McCormick he's always behind the scenes, right? Always somewhere behind the scenes, and is indeed going to try and drop in. Let's talk behind his back a little bit. You go back with him. I'd like you to take a minute or two. Again, I'm kind of reflecting on the old continue missions and some of the stuff you guys have talked about, but reflect a little bit on Captain James McCormick, the guy, your friend. Take a few minutes. Let's talk behind his back and also what he means to you.
Well, I learned about the show from Rich Kilblain, because Rich was a civilian when I was a chaplain some 20 years ago. As a matter of fact, he wrote the preface of my book. And he invited me on the radio program. And me and Captain James McCormick really hit it off, basically because of our faith commitment, our love for the military, our love for our country. And I think I've been on the show about 3 or 4 years, kind of a permanent guest, if you will, and just a phenomenal person. So many different contacts. I remember he asked me for about 25 copies of my book to give to some soldiers that were running for office. And we've just had a wonderful collaboration back and forth. I've met some of his family, and we've spoken offline personally. And I cherish and value who he is as a man of integrity and as a hero very much. And I love being on with him and continuing on this mission.
That's what it is. Continue mission, and it's easy when it's from the heart. I'm sure there are some people out there. I haven't met a person yet who dislikes James McCormick. He's just one of those guys. I'm sure he'll argue that, but I'm going to give a big switch gear. By the way, how's your time here, Father? Because we're running over.
I'm good.
Are you? Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm kind of taking this a little bit long form right now. We all miss Val terribly. Miss Val, our military radio gal, because her sound is just messed up today. But I'm just going to flow a little bit here, and I actually appreciate the opportunity to really go personal with you and ask you some questions that technically you can't in short form radio or with commercial breaks and all that stuff. But one question, this is off the wall a little bit, but it's a theological question. It's boy, I'm really anxious to hear your answer on this. Acts 2:38, baptized in water required or no? That's the question. Water required or no? I've been actually waiting for about a year for this answer. My wife, who's deeply spiritual gal, says, what's Father Mike's? Because there are differing opinions. Go ahead. I'll give you the floor on that. You take as long as you want.
Absolutely. Of course, the one exception was St. Dismas, the thief on the cross, but he was unable to be baptized. He who believes and is baptized shall be saved, not by works of righteousness, which we have done, but by his mercy he saved us by the washing of regeneration. It's the circumcision without hands, according to the book of Colossians, and the renewal of the Holy Spirit. Absolutely, baptism is necessary, and it's a part of the package. It's where the Holy Spirit begins to recreate the new person. And so, yes, unless even on your deathbed, I've done it. Someone was charged with murder at Yale University, started coming to my church because they let him out of prison. And he went to the hospital and baptized him right there in the hospital bed. It's absolutely necessary. Yes.
But water, as far as the dunking process and the Pentecost, that's really the question. Water required or not, as far as
there's a document called a Didache, which is a historical document from about the year 150. Now, it depends. On the day of Pentecost, there were all these little places where water was abundant, but that wouldn't have been necessarily true for that area. Look, the word baptizo in Greek means to dip or to die, okay? I just recently baptized one of my former students who's now at Harvard 3 times in the river, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But pouring, as I was poured on as a child, is just as legitimate. It's the work of the Holy Spirit. The water is the symbol of the Holy Spirit. But if it is possible, immersion is preferred.
Interesting. And I've heard you chat on air about that, and that's kind of a big conversation on my side of folks. Because again, a lot of varying opinions there. Quick question for you. Once again, a side note, a jumping branches a little bit. You're from Jersey, right?
Newark, New Jersey. I grew up in the projects.
But Jersey, so where I thought you were in New York. Were you in New York, or did you live in Long Island? On Long
No,
Island
see,
at
the
all?
funny thing is, the best American accent they say is from New York State, where my wife is from. The worst is from New Jersey. I live 7 miles from New York City. My grandparents settled in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, and my other grandparents in Long Island. But when I was in England, I went to get my Cambridge University ID renewed. And the lady who had to take me, she said, "Oh, I feel like I'm in a mafia movie." I'm not as cognizant of my accent. So, right outside of New York City, but from New Jersey.
It's so funny because I'll tell you what, I'd mistake you for a Long Islander
Well, a lot of,
anytime.
I've had been asked twice, and I tell my people this about aren't they not Galileans in Acts 2? People ask me, "What part of Brooklyn are you from?"
That's
You know, and it's not a compliment. You know,
right.
with my veneer of a Harvard and Yale education, it's not a compliment. It doesn't make you sound sophisticated, but it is what it is.
Before we close out, too, and again, I would like to spend some time here still, as long as your time's okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
I do want to, before we close out, I do want to talk sports with you a little bit because if you're from that area, you're opinionated on sports. But I've always wanted to bring this up to you, and I've been listening to you for a couple of years on Continuation, and it was because I could have sworn you're a New Yorker. Jersey, though. Jersey's like, I don't know if you know Seattle, Tacoma. Tacoma's like the redheaded stepchild,
Uh-huh.
of Seattle. And it's Jersey, man. I once had, I kid you not, in the car rental business. I kid you not. I can't believe I remember this. 1983. We were on the West Coast, in the Seattle area, and we didn't have many East Coast guys. They were pretty polite on the West Coast. Let me put it that way. I had one of our office managers who's talking to an East Coast car rental customer who was, let's just say, not a satisfied customer. And I listened to my office manager, and he's from my office manager, like Seattle, whatever, young guy, 21, 22 years old, and he's arguing with this guy. And then finally, my office manager says, "Hey, dude, hey, pal." I said, this is a quote. Okay, Father Mike, he says, "Hey, pal, why don't you do me a favor and go back to Jersey?" And he slammed the phone. And I said, "That's a retail customer, Ryan." Anyhow, but in my book, I kid you not, I'm so glad that I have a little bit of long form opportunity and that you have some time because I thought of you. In my book, Why I Came to America and What I Think Now, there is on page 159. It's Appendix 2, Father. I'm sure you've written some appendixes and blah, blah in the past, over the years. And it's called How to Talk New York. How to Talk New York. And I promise you, I thought of you. But I'm just going to do another quick reading here because Val's not available. Usually Val does my reading for me, Father Mike. But it's called How to Talk New York. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter. But again, it's called How to Talk New York. Okay, kids, to talk New York, just say anything to a person. Because this is me teaching my kids. I taught them this at 4, 5, 6 years old. Okay, kids, to talk New York, just say anything to a person, then put a comma. After the comma, call them a name. Okay, so 2 quick examples, kids, would be, "Bob, it's nice to hear you're doing fine, you jerk." It was a different word in here. Oh my God. Okay. A second example, kids. I kid you not, Father. I got funny kids and I used to do this. Here's how to talk New York. Second example would be, "Okay, let's get going, ladies." Right. The greatest insult in the world. Yeah. But it was relating to a presidential candidate named Donald Trump. I said, people just don't know, and I could read it, but they just don't. He's just from New York.
Right.
They call they call each other names. The more they like you, the more names they call you.
Exactly.
Back in Seattle, it was a real culture shock for me moving to the Northwest to Seattle because I was raised in Montreal, which was basically Montreal, Boston, New York. Don't even talk about Toronto. I don't like to go there because I don't like their hockey team. Anyhow, Father. Boy, we can talk. But moving to Seattle from the Northeast, and the Northeast, if you disagree, you punch each other in the nose, right? and head out and go have a beer together. In the Northwest Seattle area, if anyone has a beef with you, they write a letter to the editor. Okay, the activist of all activists. Talk to me just a little bit about just kind of the New York, New Jersey thing. I've been entertained just bringing up this stuff because it's been on my to-do list to talk to you about, and I do want to talk sports too. I really do, since we have you on.
You know, I'm of Italian descent on both sides, and so I grew up very ethnic, and there's even a subculture among Italians in the New Jersey, New York area. And, you know, I don't know if you saw the Bronx Tale. Unfortunately, some of my people have a fixation with the F bomb, but there's an interesting subculture among Italians that's around family, that's around food, very clannish type of thing. And so that's a big part of the New York, New Jersey, mindset. Now, when I went to pastor in New England, where the people were a little more standoffish and cold, that was culture shock for me, Greg, as you said about Seattle, because I come from a demonstrative Italian, family. Everybody's talking at the same time. When my sisters come in, my children better stand up and go greet them and kiss them. There's just certain protocol. I'll tell you, my own family, my mother, this was unspoken, 4 children. I have 3 sisters. I'm the only boy. That's also a big thing in an Italian family. You better be engaged at 21. You better be married and out of the house at 22. And it better be an Italian. Never said. All 4 of my siblings engaged at 21, married at 22 to Italians. And so it's just a unique subculture. And so coming out of that, as a matter of fact, when I went in the military, they were telling me there's no such thing as an Italian ice. And some of the guys from out west were asking me what it means to ride a horse bareback. What do I know about a horse? And there's no such thing. Yeah, there is, and so it's really interesting. Now, when I went to Italy, I realized how much of an American I am. My wife kept telling me, first time I preached there was in 1988. I've been there 2 other times, and I'm an American. I realize that because they're so different than even the Italian Americans are. But, I don't miss the rudeness from North Jersey. I really don't. Okay. Down here, there's a superficial, waving to people in Virginia. But, I just don't miss the rudeness. But when I first got married, my wife and I went to a conference in Philadelphia. Now, she's from upstate New York and South Jersey, farm country. And so I'm walking in the city of Philadelphia, and she used to ask me sometimes, what comes over you when we go over to George Washington Bridge, this defensive driving. And so I'm walking in front of people, I guess, and she was appalled. She's like, you need to go back and apologize to them. But that's the mindset. It's kind of aggressive. Now, we recently drove from Maine to Virginia. One of my former parishioners gifted me with a car. She's 93. She had a stroke. She couldn't drive anymore. And so we wound up going through George Washington Bridge. I'm not driving like that anymore, but it's just a very interesting regional understanding. I tried to explain to the people in England that New England is not the Deep South. The Deep South is not the West Coast. The West Coast is not the Midwest. And so it's really a unique culture. But when I got to Italy, they gave me an Italian flag. And even though my parents were born here, my grandparents all came over, all 4 of them, I couldn't wear the Italian flag. Then they gave me a pin with an Italian flag and an American flag. And I put that on my hat. But I realized I'm an American, but the Italian American in North Jersey and New York is a subculture in its own. And I belong to that. And that's why I talk like this.
the mul- the multicultures, it's not a cliche being multicultural. That's what we were in the Northeast, and we're going back really the 60s and 70s too. It goes back before that. But I still say it's so funny to watch you wrestle with the attitude versus just being most of them nice people. I've lived in Florida. All people in Florida, you get all the New Yorkers, the East Coast guys that vacation down there. On the West Coast, like Seattle, they come to Arizona. But I lived for almost 4 years in Florida in the early 90s. And I came into Deborah one day. I kid you not. I kid you not. I came into Deborah one day. And again, this was after, at the time, probably 20 years in Seattle. But I came down and I said, if I hear one more New York or Chicago accent, these people get into fistfights in the frickin' grocery line. Right. Jump branches. I love this. I love this. By the way, Father, to let you know, at the top of the hour after this, which I think that would be what 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock your time, 3 o'clock your time. Anyhow, we have an awesome show coming up, which is technically the third show of the lineup here on my Secrets from the Inside radio network, and it's called In Other News with Mike Russell. This guy right here on the screen. In other news with Mike Russell, he's a Phoenix guy, Father, and wait till you guys meet this guy. He's a Gen X all man hunter. He's a hunter. He's a just all man in every way, big time Second Amendment, and he's been a radio guy down here for a number of years, but 4 years in the Phoenix market. And he's going to be our 12 noon show every week, which is 3 o'clock your time. But he's going to be coming up. But that means we've got over half an hour left in this segment. And if you don't mind, how is your time going? Because
Good.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
2 o'clock would be where I'd have to get off.
Your job. So that's good. That's perfect.
Yeah.
God, it's like this is made to order by God. Okay. Oh, so you have to leave it too? Well, we got to leave it too anyways, because Mike Russell's coming on.
Great.
By the way, seriously, wait till you guys meet this Mike Russell guy. He's again, it gives you so much faith in the Generation X's, the younger guys. Mike's 49, but even there's guys in their 30s and 20s and stuff. I'm really promoting these guys that are sharp as a tack, and he's got the best show you'll ever heard. Very edgy, lots of politics. But before I get off this subject, I need you to talk a little sports. I need you and go back to the 60s. We know all the same names, but talk to me about Father Mike, because I've never heard this on Continue Mission. When you come on Secrets from the Inside Radio Network, you tend to tell secrets or stuff you haven't said on the air, or you've not been asked on the air. So talk to me about sports, growing up, and even what you feel now.
Well, my biggest excitement was when I saw Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle at Yankee Stadium. I was in the nosebleed seats with my friend and his father, who was a New York cop. And Mickey Mantle still looked like Popeye. It was a doubleheader with Baltimore Orioles. Boog Powell was on Baltimore. But believe it or not, my mother was a die-hard Joe DiMaggio, Yankees fan, big Yankees. Believe it or not, in high school, I was a Stan Musial, St. Louis, Cardinals, Lou Brock, and a Dallas Cowboys since I was 15. Not the Giants, not the Jets, not the Buffalo Bills. And so just crazy, but those were the teams. But, it's a big thing, with people up there, the competitiveness. We had a person out of my high school who went to be a relief pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, Bob Stanley. He was in my sister's class, 1973 of Kearney High School. But I really never took. Now, I couldn't tell my mother that. As a matter of fact, several years before she died, I bought her the nice pinstripe Yankee jacket. And, and of course, I know the heritage, Joe DiMaggio and Babe Ruth and everybody. But I've always been a person to stand out and to be different. And for some reason, St. Louis was my team, and Dallas Cowboys. And to this day, my wife is an upstate New Yorker. So if Buffalo Bills come on, and she loves football, my wife is a twin, but her father had 4 girls, and she was the one who was tapped to watch sports all the time. So throughout our 48 years of marriage, there's never been any pressure about watching boxing, football. One time I called 3 UFC bouts in a row, and just by looking, and she says, "Hey, can we get some money out of this?" I just sized them up, and I called 3 fights in a row. But love sports. I love college football. She and I like Notre Dame a great deal, and I love boxing. Any kind of competitive combatives. I did a lot of combatives myself and martial arts and sparring, things of that nature. But I think it's good. My 2 of my children that were real good athletes. My one daughter started playing basketball in 6th grade. She walked on in college. My son won 167 bouts in wrestling, 120 by pin, and only lost 39. I felt that contributed to their work ethic and to their success. I really I really appreciate. I tried to golf, to go out with friends. It's too slow for me. I was into racquetball. I don't have enough patience for freshwater fishing. I love deep water fishing for blues and the race off Long Island when I was in Connecticut. But I'm not a calm person. Okay. I'm an Italian. When I was in England, it says keep calm and carry on. And there's a shirt I got there that says I can't keep calm. I'm Italian. And so that's kind of my disposition. I'm kind of, fired up. I'm not real. Now it's funny. My last name is Pacella, which means peaceful and easygoing. I haven't lived up to that yet.
You know what I've always found, being an East Coast guy myself, Father, is that people that are Catholic and people that are Italian always love to tell you that. Do you notice that? Notice that? I don't think I've ever walked up to anyone and say, "Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Meekin. I'm a Protestant." I'm just, I love you guys, boy. I'll tell you what, we can talk for hours.
When I taught in an all-black college, they were giving me a hard time because they perceived me as white.
Right.
I finally got up one day, and I had 3 classes of 62 in each class. Finally got up one day and I said, "Look, I'm not white. I'm Italian." It totally changed their attitude. It's no lie. Totally changed their attitude. Matter of fact, I met a guy up in Korea on the DMZ. He was giving some people a hard time, and they sent me as a chaplain to see what was going on. And he didn't turn around and look at me. He goes, "What do you want, Sarge?" I said, "Do I look like a sergeant? I have the cross on my Kevlar, but I'm a captain." And I said, "Where are you from?" He goes, "Newark, New Jersey." And I said, "That's where I'm from." He goes, "Oh, you Italians and those bats." And that was the first response that he had. So it's interesting. I guess that's why we identify, even though I know I'm an American,
Right.
All my grandparents, both sides, my wife and I both, and my children who are all adopted. My one daughter's half African American. We've tried to give them the faith first, but they've all identified. My daughter went to Italy for 2 weeks for a honeymoon. She had an Italian meal at her engagement party, Italian meal at her wedding, and it's contagious.
I really have enjoyed this time just to reflect back. I really do. I feel it's just you and me, and we're talking old East Coast stuff. Old East Coast stuff, man. I mean, we could talk for hours and hours. As a total side note, in Montreal, and what I like about this Northeast thing, because you're really hitting on it. Excuse me, the New York guys, the Boston guys, and we from Montreal, we were real multicultural. We were down there all the time, and you guys visited Montreal and all that stuff. So, but what I loved about it is how diverse it was long before it was cool. Diversity. I mean, like you're talking about, you go from one neighborhood to another in Boston. etc. But what I love, and I really mean it, and you're touching on it, East Coast folks can drive me crazy, but in the end, there is really this this umbrella of Americanism that I feel that they're all American. These are the Ellis Island people.
Amen.
But we love our differences. Like I say, I've
All
been
my
teasing you.
uncles,
I teased you for being Catholic tonight, Father.
all my uncles fought in World War II, and their parents came from Italy and spoke Italian in the home. And no, we're very patriotic. I learned growing up that patriotism is a virtue. I was raised to be very patriotic. I love America. I lived in England. I lived in Korea. I really could not see myself living in Italy, even though, I can speak the language a little bit, because truly I'm an American, and that's the uniform I wore. And if we went to war, God forbid, like my uncles had to decide, they were drafted, I would fight for my country. And so, but I'm a Christian first, but my Catholicity or whatever I represent in my ethnicity is secondary to my faith. And I always try to do that with the children. But I've never not liked or never apologized for what God made me. I love the history of Italian opera, of Italian tourism, of Italian food, and not so much the scourge of the mafia and things of that nature, because we're all put under that um, canopy. I have to tell you a truth. No matter when I go through the TSA, if it's overseas, most of the time in my clerics, even when I went to the Social Security to get my Social Security card renewed with a former cop from that city who was in my parish, I always get frisked, Greg. I don't know what. Always, my wife laughs. I always get frisked.
Seriously.
So yeah, so I've got. They say that I've got some kind of a look, but and even if I'm in civilian clothes, you can always count that they're pulling. So I say to the guy, he said we had a little bulge. I said, well, that's fat.
Uh,
I'm not packing. But so when I had a mission in another city, and I had an office downtown, a good friend of mine now for over 40 years, an Irish guy, he thought for sure it wasn't a church, that it was a mafia front. And so you deal with some of that scourge, but that's not truly everything the Italian people are. But they brought some of that here to this country, and the rest of us are ashamed of that scourge because we have so much good in our heritage.
I always say I believe live life by the 80-20 rule. Whether there's not 100%. There's going to be bad apples. There's going to be elements of every culture, etc. I think that's something honestly to embrace. Actually, I live by the 80-20 rule. I really do. And once again, there seems to be 80% of all of us that are just Americans. They're patriotic Americans. We're common sense. I call it, Father, I call it 1950s handshake world.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's coming back. I'll forever say, I think it's coming back. I think it's going to start November 5th. We won't go there.
But we want to teach it, like you said, with your grade 13. It's not going to come back by osmosis.
Correct. And again, it's our responsibility as older guys, and even Val as a Gen Xer, her responsibility to teach younger generations.
Yes.
Absolutely, positively. Let's take a quick moment. I'm going to just do a quick little monologue here. We got about 20 minutes till Mike Russell, until you have to scoot. I'm going to do a quick monologue here and a quick mic check. Val, any mic there today, do you think?
I'm trying. Can you hear me? Hello?
Go. Take a quick 30 seconds. See if you can talk. Seriously, take a quick 30 seconds. I'll interrupt you. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Right. I've really enjoyed what Father Mike has shared today, and I'm so encouraged with grade 13, and I'm thinking into the future that we're going to raise up some classic individuals through grade 13.
Well, yeah, it was still cutting out, but we got it. It was like almost listening to a little Morse code there. Hey, Father, I'm sure you heard
I
a
got it.
little Morse code. Oh, a total side note, again, before I forget, up in Montreal, we were fans of the Dallas Cowboys. My brother to this day, I mean, he passed away early in his 50s, but he was a Dallas Cowboys fan forever. And I was a bit of Boston Red Sox, the Yastrzemski guys and stuff, but
Hmm.
Dallas Cowboys, short, the small world. My brother-in-law was roommates with Roger Staubach
Wow.
at Annapolis.
Wow.
And again, I love the old guys that you mentioned, the DiMaggios and all this stuff. I'm an old hockey guy. You know, I don't know if you had it. Did you guys have any hockey in New York during that era at all?
I lived in the projects. We didn't even have swimming lessons, but what they did do is they had a shower. But no, but there was a lot of punching going on, but not necessarily through hockey. But I enjoy it. I have some family in Chicago. My cousin's a Chicago police officer, and I know they're really into it, and I enjoy it. But it wasn't something that we were really a
Sure.
part of.
Sure, and very few really folks overall were into hockey during that old era and stuff. Like your Chicago folks, I'll tell you what, because I know a lot of the guys from over the years, but the name drops, the Bobby Hulls and Stan Mikitas and Jim Pappins and oh goodness, Tony O and all those guys, really familiar. I can talk with anyone from the original six, like all day, right? Montreal, Toronto, although I don't like to talk to people from Toronto. Detroit. I love your St. Louis Cardinals thing. Do you remember? Did you follow the Cardinals like even recently? Do you remember the name Dan Quisenberry?
No, I haven't
Right.
followed them, and no, I don't.
Right. But awesome to hear that. A lot of Cardinals fans out there. A lot of Cardinals fans. And
Mhm.
again, the old Dallas Cowboys and stuff. But it's 1040. What we've been doing here, we've been doing Continue Mission Radio. It's on the Secrets from the Inside Radio Network that comes on every Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, high noon East Coast time. The first show of the day is Continue Mission, which literally we're simply continuing this mission all the way through the second hour. Thank God to Father Mike. I'm so glad you're available. And then after that is Secrets from the Inside, which is my signature program where we're into the time right now. And then goodness gracious, at 12 noon Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern, we have In Other News with Mike Russell coming up. So this has been so far just an absolutely fabulous day. As Val would say, this is going to be broadcast on multi social media platforms. We have what we do is we have generally have a nice broad section of people that listen live, but really the extended network is when this is re-platformed and quote relayed and stuff. So what's cool, this is literally an entire 3-hour segment that we're literally about halfway through. Who we have here here today, I keep saying tonight. I always feel like I'm on Continue Mission. I love Continue Mission on Friday nights. We have Father Michael Pacella III, who is a military veteran, extraordinaire Catholic priest, PhD, all kinds of stuff. But we have Father Mike Pacella on today. Michael's partners in crime on Friday nights, Continue Mission, is Captain James McCormick and historian Rich Kilblane. What's really going to be fun for me, Father Mike, is really continuing. I love it, continuing these missions every Wednesday. And between Captain McCormick, between the folks on our end, I can't dream where we're going to be able to keep it to an hour or once a week. We have people right now, and you'll love this. You know a lot of the names, but we have a lot of people kind of lining up already for these segments. And I'm really looking forward to hearing some of those names down the road. We've already booking up for next week, the week after. So I simply can't tell you how awesome it's been having you on. Your expertise, your depth of knowledge. You are a fellow baby boomer like me. Unlike me, you went to Vietnam. I was in Montreal, surrounded by draft dodgers. I'm a dual citizen that was U.S. born, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I'll bet you know people in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
I know New England a little bit, but not so much. I want to just clarify. We would probably be categorized as Anglo-Orthodox, because we're allowed to marry. This is technical, but our apostolic succession comes through Rome. Okay. But technically, we're autocephalous, self governing, not a break away from anything. And so, people often are curious that I'm married, but we're allowed to marry. And St. Paul said, the husband of one wife, children who believe. But certainly theologically, and everything else is dress right dress. And I have a wonderful relationship with those people in my community. And Greg, it's just a blessing to have someone celebrate you and not tolerate you. Sometimes a person will ask you on because they want to be antagonistic about. I told my wife today, she asked me, who you were. And I said, he's a good man. I trust him. Whatever he wants to talk about, I'm good.
Wow.
And because you're oftentimes put in situations where people, they want to ask you a rhetorical question they really don't want an answer. And I just appreciate the friendship, the love. Val has reached out to me, and the family we're building, and we have the same values that we share. And it's just wonderful to be able to join together and have the opportunity for this platform, and also to share the goodness of God and the opportunities that we have been given. A couple years back, I came down with prostate cancer and diabetes the 5 years before that. And the VA determined I was exposed to Agent Orange. And after the diabetes, I kind of knew that the cancer probably would be around the corner. And so many supportive people. God is good. But something Mother Cabrini said, who had a movie out not too long ago, and she said, you can either serve your weakness or your purpose, but not both. And she was a great missionary from Italy, worked a great deal with the immigrants, especially from Italy. And she's one of my heroes. Her picture's right up in my office here. And I'm just grateful for the work that you are doing, and that you allow me and you embrace what I'm sharing. And I'm very grateful. And I can speak on behalf of my bishop as well. I know that he would be grateful for the fact that you've given me a platform to share.
Well, Father Michael, I needed that today. That is like Jordan Peterson said, boy, when someone recognizes it, or you change someone's life, that's really cool. For you to recognize that, and that's what really cool. This is, call it superficially a brand. If you'll call it a brand, it's a product.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it for 35, 40 years. And it's called, actually, you've heard this term, dueling citizens,
Mm-hmm.
where I simply can't believe the confrontational nature of the bloody world now, to talk Canadian. I just can't believe it. I understand it. But I was raised to embrace dueling points of view.
Mm-hmm.
I pray we get back to it. But I'll humbly say what I wanted to deliver, and it's in my writing, it's in my radio, and it's in my books, is a camaraderie, if you will, of dueling viewpoints, dueling thoughts. I would even talk to someone from Toronto. I'm that open-minded, but and we talk about stuff. We wrestle things around. We're grown-ups. We're respectful, and then we come out with hopefully some type of common ground, which everybody, I believe, has.
Yes.
And for you to describe it this way, that you trust me, that's like beyond means something to me. Okay, but that you're comfortable with the format, and that you like the format. And I'll tell you what, the biggest missing link today has been not having Miss Val available, because this would be 3 times the show, just from a flow and a quality standpoint, and her input. But maybe maybe God's in this too. But either way, for you to recognize that, and what I've always said about, and really just call it a radio product for no better description, is I don't. Uh, I really like to approach things of what is in it for the listener
Mhm.
or the reader. How are they going to hear this and interpret it? And my job is simply, of course, to project that over the microphone. But everything I do and we do here is so that it's entertaining, that people like this stuff. I'm going to listen back to this, and I'm going to just be fascinated with the information that you chatted with about today. I've learned so much about you today. I think you've learned stuff about me today, and we've actually learned that Val, as amazing as she is, she can actually sit there and be a facilitator, even if Justin Trudeau has shut her mic off today. So, boy, I sure love to trash my folks up there, don't I? But thank you for that, seriously. And the greatest compliment, honestly, Father Mike, that you could ever give would be that you trust me. And indeed, this is just the beginning. This is actually the third kind of prototype run through of the network of Secrets from the Inside Network. So Continue Mission is going to be every week. And believe it or not, you're going to be invited back. Right? I'll tell you what, it has been absolutely fabulous. Take a few minutes, if you will. I deeply thank you. I mean, I thank you. And take a few minutes. We've got about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, but take a nice 4, 5, 6 minutes here, Father Mike. Just kind of wrap up stuff, anything that's on your heart. I'll be listening again. I'll be listening through. I'm going to be thrilled with this, and it's been thrilling chatting with you, just sitting here watching you on the camera the whole time, and it's been great. But chat whatever you want to chat about, and take 4, 5, 6 minutes here and start. Well, because we'll start wrapping the show. Thank you, Father.
Okay. Val was mentioning earlier before she was cut off because of her bad mic situation that my wife joined me on a Continue Mission on Friday evening. Rich was out of the loop and James was out of the loop. And last minute, my wife came home. She's a retired educator, administrator, and now at age 73, she's a cashier at Walmart. She loves connecting with people, helping people, the working poor, so to speak. And she agreed. And we did about an hour and 15 minutes. And Kim Justice was very helpful. And we got to think about being a unit and being a team. You know, we all have wonderful endowments from our Creator, and we complement one another. So, as you said, if Val were on here today, this would have been a much richer show because that complementarity, we're not in competition with each other. We complement each other because we all have different experiences, but it's for the common good. We care about our listeners. We care about our audience. We're doing it so that we can enrich their lives and help them, not because we want to talk about ourselves and our accomplishments. And so I'm grateful for people who take the opportunity to take a risk and to have the sense of serving others. And what can we do to help you? What experience can I share with you? What resources can I share with you? You know, the early church had a great boast. There wasn't a needy one among them. And those who had additional property and additional homes sold them so that everyone could at least have a roof over their head. It wasn't communism, it was voluntary communalism. And so I'm just so grateful for friends of like mind. And I know there are people out there who can't necessarily give voice to what they're feeling. And sometimes when we share our experiences, it helps them to resonate with those things, whether it's veterans crisis or whatever it might be. I love working with the Army still because I think I have much to contribute. Now, I have gleaned and received a great deal, excuse me, but I also feel that there's a time for giving back. You know, when you're in your 20s and 30s and, you know, you're really becoming significant in what you're doing in your 40s and you're gathering goods and so on and so forth. But once you come into your 50s, in ancient Israel, you couldn't be a counselor until you were 50. You didn't have enough life experience. But then when you're in the last quarter or the back nine, you start seeing what you need to do to leave the place a better place. And so thank you for this great opportunity today.
That is wonderful. Getting in, getting into my 60s, not getting reflective here, but I really become conscious of my own mortality. Really, for the first time, I lived life extremely recklessly. I love to drive cars fast. Love to play hockey and whatever. But I felt really conscious of my own mortality. I don't know if I'm sure you relate to this, but my philosophy has always been, of course, wake up in kindergarten every day. There's so much to learn and so little time because before you know it, you're in grade one. So obviously be coachable, be a sponge. But on the mortality thing, I really have my approach has been to uh, cliche, but live life like it was your last one on earth. You know, bring it. Like you say, I feel so much energy from you today, Father Mike. It's almost like when you talk to James, it seems like he's getting younger every year. Do you know what I mean? One of those guys like Dick Clark. I don't
Word
know how.
enthusiasm and theos in the Greek means in God.
Oh,
And there's a life there,
yep.
a purpose there that ignites, you know, wanting to live and wanting to share hope for people who might be in despair. And so it's important to, you know, choose life and have your head in the game. We have an Italian expression. It's called mezzamort. It means he's half dead. You
Right.
know, you got to be in the game. Your head's got to be in the game. I'd have some students that were seniors, football players that had to take my class in order to graduate. And it's a hard class. And I'd say to them, do you have to pass this class to graduate? Yes, sir. I said, well, you better get your head in the game. And I think that you have to choose to live it like it's the last day, like you said, with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Um, my word of the day these days is authenticity. Be authentic.
Mhm.
And I'd like your comment on this. I'd heard on a wonderful international radio show Sunday mornings. Val knows this, Sunday Long Live Radio, based out of London. They deal with real conceptual stuff and stuff. And they had a segment on authenticity. Authenticity, obviously, is such an attractive thing when you run into someone and you know when someone's authentic. But that the strongest energy, according to this radio show, strongest energy that comes out of a human being is not kind of love or conceptual. It's authenticity. Authenticity is the most powerful energy that others can receive.
Hmm.
Can you comment on that, or have you heard that?
Oh, I think that's so true. I have remembered as you were talking a conversation I had with a young man who was a owner of an automotive shop. He was in my church, one of the deacons. And I shared with him that most people are looking for authentic Christianity, something that really rings true. And that has a lot to do with our personal integration, our personal integrity. So I couldn't agree with you more. There's a lot of frivolous stuff, a lot of, you know, image with no substance. And I think that it's so important. And I think this next generation is looking for authenticity, not that we have to become like them, but that whoever we are, we're for real. I've counseled people with all the piercings and this and that, and they didn't want me to be Joe Cool. They wanted me to be authentically who I was. So I think that that is the truth for all of us.
And Father Mike, take a few minutes here. Review once again your books and where we can find them, and anywhere else that folks can contact you. A lot of these things will come out as clips, just clips
Okay.
on my Rumble channel or whatever. So standalone. Let folks. The most important thing is to communicate where folks can get our work, because we've got such diversified backgrounds, and listeners and readers want to know. So take a few minutes if you would.
Thank you.
Looks like we're going to be probably a couple minutes, but for Mike Russell, but he's not here in the studio yet. So take your time. And
Okay.
where can we find your stuff?
You can see Michael Pacello III on Facebook. It doesn't have father and it doesn't have PhD, just Michael Pacello III. Try to friend me. You can also see my service at St. Michael and All Angels Church, 1006 Richmond Road, Williamsburg, Virginia, 23185. My books are on Amazon. The most important book, I think, for this audience is From Valor to Virtue. It's kind of a transition. The moral development of the brave, the moral development of the brave, Father Michael Pacella, or Pacella, really, the third. And this other book, God Was Not Silent, the case for the forgotten books. If you just put Father Michael Pacella in Amazon, the books will come up. My dissertation that's being published should come up soon. But my email address, it's a long one, but it's Saint, written out, SAINT, Michaels, MICHAELS, no apostrophe, Church, CHURCH, 14, Arabic number 14, at gmail.com. So St. Michael's Church 14 at gmail.com. If you write to me, I will answer you back. And it's been a wonderful time. And please listen to our radio podcast on Friday nights, Continue Mission, with Captain James McCormick and myself and Rich Kilblain. But please contact me. I would love to correspond with any of you.
And I feel like sometimes calling you Captain Pacella, because you're a captain, right? And we've got three captains
Right.
on Continue Mission.
Yeah,
You,
absolutely.
James, and Rich are all captains. So
Right.
one thing, I'm going to continue the tradition of Continue Mission. Before we sign off here, I'm going to have you give a prayer.
Thank you, sir.
And I say, honestly, take as long as you want or need. I don't like rushing stuff like this, but we have Mike Russell is not in the studio yet, backstage. He's one of those busy guys too, so we got all the time in the world.
Right.
But do take some time. Do give us a prayer if you would, as you do on Continue Mission every Friday night.
Our gracious, loving Heavenly Father, kind and merciful, and forgiver of all of our sins, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to talk to our fellow citizens, our fellow countrymen. Lord, we just pray that you would bless our country, especially with good leadership. I thank you so much for Greg and Val and their desire to see a better world, a better country. I pray, Lord Jesus, that you'll make yourself real to people, for truly you are the Savior of the world, and you shed your blood to forgive our sins. I bless these people in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, that this would be a wonderful day, that they would embrace your truth. They too would be authentic and go forth in their purpose with might and power. I ask and pray these things in Jesus' name, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Beautiful, wonderful, Father Mike Pacella. Wonderful. That has been just a great wrap up to the show. You have to get going, sir.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm going to sign you off.
Okay.
Val, if you want to say goodbye, if you can, through your mic.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining today, Father Mike. It's great to see you.
Great. Thank you.
We'll have you back on.
I'd
And
love
it'll
to.
be fabulous. Thank you so much. You were a blessing to be here today. Thanks a lot, Father.
Thank
And
you so
Val
much.
will exit you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. I'll tell you what, you never know what's going to happen in live radio, right, Val? And we have a long form, true long form live radio. We do a hard start, by the way. There's no music, there's no intros, there's no bells and whistles, there's no commercials, there's no advertisements. Because what I've learned is what the leader wants is just what the leader, the listener, and the reader wants is just the information. Let's start it. Let's pack it with great information, entertaining stuff. This last, goodness gracious, this has been 2 hours with Father Mike Pacella, Val. It's been 2 hours. Absolutely amazing. I am so thrilled to be able to, as cliche as it sounds, continue the mission that these guys have been working on of course, every Friday night with their radio show, but continuing the mission of the message here, the fatherhood, mentorship. These veterans, tell you what, Father Mike and stuff, of course, is a number of organizations that he belongs to and has belonged to over the years. The Vietnam Vets of America right now we're working with very, very closely. There'll be an announcement there pretty quick in this next week or so, where we're going to be working with Vietnam Vets of America as a media team. Val, very nice. I won't get into it too much right now, but Vietnam Vets of America, and that's VVA.org, folks. That's where James McCormick, our dear friend Captain McCormick, is Executive Director of Public Affairs. VVA.org, Vietnam Vets of America. They're guys like Father Pacella. They're guys like this. They're guys not only, of course, served in Vietnam, but since then, but their mission always is to make sure no of the younger generation soldiers ever have to go through what they went through coming back from Vietnam, the disrespect and lack of support and stuff for the Vietnam vets. So their current mission, as you hear it, you hear this in the tone of Father Mike. You hear it when you talk to James McCormick. You hear it when you talk to Rich Kilblain. So these veterans organizations, Vietnam Vets of America, has almost 100,000 guys. Really cool. For $100, $100, you can get lifetime membership with VVA, and they have an affiliates. I believe it's avva.org, avva.org, where even if you're not part of the military, you can still, of course, become a member. We'll be probably in this next 5 or 10 minutes here. It looks like Mike Russell might be unavailable. I'm not sure. I haven't touched base with him yet. But indeed, if that's the case, what we'll do is no biggie, no problem at all. We'll just kind of sign off the show. And with a little IOU from Mike Russell, I'll bet you it's something technologically or something going on. Mike Russell, it's so awesome. He has a show. He runs a show. He has actually 2 shows daily. It's very, very cool. 2 shows daily. One is in other news, which is at 12 noon Pacific every day. There's the logo, awesome, in other news with Mike Russell, and that's on Monday through Friday at noon on Facebook Live and the other Meta Live and X and stuff. And go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah.
I can
Mike's
actually
going to
hear
be joining
you.
us. Oh, wonderful. Mike will be here at 12. So, Mike, it's 11. So, yeah, we've got another hour to keep going.
Sure. Oh, how awesome! God, it's that's right. On the timing thing. That's right. So interesting. I think I can hear you a little bit here, Val. You want to go ahead and do a bit of a mic. It still runs a little bit, but yeah, we definitely need both of us here for this next hour, for sure.
Yeah, I'm here. If you can hear me okay. If not, we have some clips from your YouTube channel that I know our listeners would love to hear, especially we don't have Captain James. He's flying, but we could always visit some clips. So I'm just on standby. I'm in communication with Mike behind the scenes, and
Awesome.
Mike is getting ready for his show. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's right. He has the Go Show. He at 11 o'clock. He's actually, as a matter of fact, live on air right now with the Go Show. live with Mike Russell. Yeah, you're coming in and out a little bit, but let's hang with it. And do you have clips available? You can just either start running or we can comment on them. Because I'd like to kind of kick back a little bit and respond or review anything on screen. Do you have stuff you can run?
Yeah, in about 2 minutes time. So I'm just going to give you the whole screen for a
Sure.
minute or two, and you just let people know one, where they can find your book really quick, and how to find your YouTube channel, and then after that I'll be ready to go.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we're again still juggling, and I'm getting myself organized too with such a brand new fun platform here, Secrets from the Inside Radio Network. Every Wednesday. And as Val mentioned, my book, I wrote this book about it's almost 3 years ago, Why I Came to America and What I Think Now. And that book actually started the ball rolling with a lot of people asking me about, again, current events, the difference between Canada and the United States. And so I've done over 100 radio shows here in this last year and a half or so. It's been an absolute blast. It's been a blast. As you can see, even with Father Michael's appearance, and when you see other folks that come on here, you'll see that it's a variety of multi-personalities, multi-type folks, multi-generations, and coming together with obviously positive discussion and stuff. But my book is Why I Came to America and What I Think Now. It's now available by ebook on Amazon. You can get it two places. You can get it at my website, which is gregmeakin.com. That's GregMeakin.com. And on that website, you can either obviously can buy my book, including the ebook. There's a donation section in there if you would like to contribute to the cause. IT expenses are just getting really outrageous these days. So, but you can get my book on Amazon at search Greg Meakin, GregMeakin. And it's available on demand for $5 US. Right. So what's that, about $300-400 Canadian now, I think. But $5 US, get it on demand through Kindle. And I'm so proud to offer it. Look at this video. Great. This is cool. This is on my YouTube channel. YouTube channel is Greg Meakin, my name. And although I'm not actively posting stuff anymore on YouTube, it's still there. And this clip right here, it's awesome. This was Mark Lamb, Sheriff Lamb, during our campfire chat. Oh, this is a great clip, Val. Thank you. Sheriff Lamb during our campfire chat. And I asked him about his father. And anytime you want to play this is great. It was ad lib. It was, this is almost 3 years ago. But during that campfire, we asked Mark Lamb a lot of stuff he's never been asked publicly. So you're able to play that clip in good volume here, Val. Looks great.
I want to ask you. I bet you haven't been asked this before. I want to ask you about Donald Lynn Lamb. Take as long as you want.
Yeah, that sound doesn't work.
Donald Lamb is my dad. But yeah, you're right. Nobody ever asked you about your dad. I dedicated my book to my dad. My dad was a dairyman, was a grad business college. Very creative, probably one of the most intelligent people I've had in my life. My dad was a tremendous, he studied everything, and he would read things like congressional records, and my dad got very involved in Panama and the history of Panama and how the United States really stole Panama, the canal, and he really knew everything about it. He would have all these folders behind him at his desk out there, and he would talk to you and be like, "Oh, Greg, let me can tell you about something." He would turn around, and there was no rhyme or reason to file it, to these files, and he would be able to pull a file out and show you that paper and the quote in a congressional record. So very intelligent, but he still does hard work. And most of the time, he would tell you to do something. He didn't tell you how to do it, and you didn't want to ask, because if you asked, it frustrated him. So you would just be like, "I guess I better figure out how to pour this concrete," And what it did was it created a sense of independence with us and ability to rely on ourselves, really. I think in life is if you can teach your children that they are capable to rely on themselves, that they're capable, that they can handle any situation that's placed before them. I think that's toolbox. You get that's paramount, which is what he did. Is and then personal skills, everything about it. I mean, my mom obviously plays a huge part, but together, I was very fortunate to have parents that developed all of us. My brothers and my sister were all contributing members of society. We're not criminals. We don't do drugs. We don't smoke. We don't drink. We go to church every Sunday. So clearly, they did a good job.
Did he make you the man and the father you are?
Definitely. I'm a no respecter of persons, though. So for example, I think that my dad was probably the biggest source of these stuff that has made me the person who I am. But at the same time, I might come and sit down with you, and I might say, "Hey, I like what Greg does there." I think I'm going to try to apply that in my life, where I might go and meet with Donald Trump Jr. or Donald Trump, President Trump, and say, "You know what? I like that." Even Joe Biden, I don't think he has much to offer. Even
Don't get us started.
but there was always something you can pull at. So I'm more of a glean from a lot of people and make that and put that in the pot of my authenticity and my uniqueness and create me. So I would say that my dad's probably the one that had the most ingredients in that soup. But at the same time, I'm making, yeah, and that's how he would want it to be. Right. My dad never told us when I would say, "Hey, I'm gonna do this or that." He never said, "No, you shouldn't do that" or whatever. Never told us to not do it, and that's probably the biggest blessing. Was he allowed us to just, we took our boat off the shore and out to sea, and he let us find out for ourselves.
That's the whole point, isn't it? Of parenthood.
Yeah.
Wow, that was awesome. I'm praying that this is coming out okay sound wise on the social media side. It sounds good on your end, right, Val? Do you have other clips or anything? Do you have a little that was a really good one. I'm glad that they had closed captions because I wasn't hearing it right on my end. But what an amazing clip talking about fatherhood. That almost matches the amazing conversation that Father Mike Picella talking about his family and his upbringing and stuff, that the old personal responsibility and stuff. Do you have something you can run right now? Clip-wise, go ahead. Can you want to do a quick mic check? Can I hear you yet? This is going to be great.
Can you hear me okay? I was just going to take like a 2-minute commercial break. We would be right back, and we're just going to do an audio test. So we're not going to be far, but I'm just going to see if you can hear this okay. You let me know, Greg, okay? Just give me 1 minute. Can you hear that? Okay, I'm just doing a quick mic check here, and just bear with me. We'll have a second of terrible sounding audio. But okay, I'm just doing a quick mic check here, and just bear with me. We'll have a second of perfect. Okay, welcome back. This is Secrets from the Inside Radio Network. I am coming through to you loud and clear. We're just thrilled to have you all joining us today. In other news with Mike Russell, we are approximately, give or take, around 45 minutes away. This is a great show. Greg is here. Greg, my audio is coming through loud and clear, so we're good. I'm going to get you to unmute yourself. And I really am disappointed we don't have James today, but I'm going to just get some of the best of James. He's busy. I mean, yesterday, can you go into that for a minute and just let our listeners know where James was and what he was doing all day long?
Awesome, Captain James McCormick. We never know when he's going to parachute in or not, but Captain James McCormick, amazing guy. This guy's the executive director for public affairs for the Vietnam Veterans of America. And Captain James, we've talked about him a lot on this show, but he's as cutting edge a guy as you can meet as far as just his conversation, his knowledge of the issues. He works closely with government. He's heavily involved in veterans affairs and stuff. Really trying to make a difference, so you play here, anything here as far as you have videos, video wise, whatever. I do want to introduce the audience, if they don't know him, to Captain James McCormick and what he is doing. And you can see on the screen some of the stuff on the internet with Vietnam Veterans of America. They're saying, leave no one behind. Leave no veteran behind. Val, you have a mic there and the ability to go with YouTube here?
Yes, I'm just bringing it up here. In one moment, you'll see it in real time. So for those of you that do not know how to find Greg, YouTube is the best. So we're going to go to YouTube right now. As I find our clip here.
That's
Give me a second.
Yeah, there's some great clips on there with James McCormick. I mean, priceless stuff. I wish I had time to kind of search these, but there's some real good stuff. The UFO story is great. That's
what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. If we could, I'm just gonna get it for a minute.
Sure.
Or I'm gonna look for it for a minute while you tease it, if you wouldn't mind. Could you just kind of give the backstory? Because when you bring up aliens, people don't know exactly where you're going. So just take your time, Greg. I'm gonna give you the screen.
Sure.
And just take a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Give me.
Sure.
And really unpack that, because we're not just talking about like foreign aliens, like your government here in the United States refers to me as an alien. We're actually talking about another kind of alien. So yeah, just take your time for a minute, Greg. I'm going to give you the screen.
Yeah, I'll take a couple of minutes here. Yeah, we can kind of freelance and roll with this. This is excellent. This is one in a million. This UFO story from an Army captain who was over in Iraq. How the story originated was Captain James McCormick, when we were actually on the air, and I'm talking almost 2 years ago, but on the air, and I asked him to tell a secret. As usual on Secrets from the Inside, our guests come on and tell a secret of something they haven't talked about publicly before, and his was this story about him being over there. And it was the title of the story on my YouTube channel is Iraqis Surrender to a UFO. And boy, I'll tell you what, he told a story of literally over in Iraq, and this is all documented because they did multi-officers did reports on this, where they were on patrol in Iraq, and they were he was part of the 518 gun truck company that was protecting the convoys. And actually, it happened that there was a kind of a full ambush that was about to happen of them, which happened all the time, with the insurgents. And it turns out that 2 of the Iraqi soldiers came out and surrendered to them. To James and his crew. He said, and apparently there were over 20 people in this Iraqi platoon, and the prisoners claimed that the other folks in their company were taken away by a quote UFO. It was and James will tell the story beautifully, but they simply disappeared. And there's some real depth to this story, mainly because of why they surrendered. So I'll let you take it from here, Val. Looks like you have it queued up. So go ahead.
Yep. Local, federal, and accountability from the agency.
Yeah, so it was, I found out later, it was the United States Air Force. They got an operation, I think it's called Operation Blue Book, where they were taking stories and investigating. They did that up until about, I think, 1990 sometime. And that, but they never identified themselves as U.S. Air Force or anything like that. It was, I'm sure they did when my grandmother called, but there was a show that was on. I remember there was this show that was on about investigating the Air Force investigating UFOs. And it was a very popular show. And, but at the end of that show, evidently there was a link or a telephone number. It was a telephone number. If you've seen any unidentified objects, call, and it was the number that you called. Well, my grandmother believed me. I had no reason to lie about it. I mean, there was nothing. Let me tell you, I gained nothing. You gain nothing by lying about something like that, except for a lot of unwanted attention and people thinking you're nuts. That's why she told me to keep it to myself. Not, and I didn't go to school and blab my mouth about that either. I mean, I definitely just buried it. But that's where I believe she got that number from. Was from that TV show. It's been, it's been over 4 years ago. So, it's. But I remember seeing the vehicle or the flying ship. I remember seeing that as clear as day. And it's never. I've never forgotten that. Never forgotten that at all. And it was nice that my grandmother, she kind of looked at me. She wanted to make sure, but she believed me, and she believed me so much to let me make the report. And they were real nice. They were talking to a kid. You know how people talk to kids. Okay, now, honey, tell me what you saw. What did it look like? Was it smoking? Was it? Did you smell anything? Did you hear anything? They wanted to know if I remember going, beep, 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 trying to imitate the sound that this thing was making. But it was like really crazy series of beeps that were in rapid succession. I can't even imitate it because it was so strange and so quick. So yeah.
So was it like a frequency then that you would be able to identify if you ever were to hear it again?
Yes. If I heard it again, I can hear it in my brain right now. Yeah, absolutely. I could hear it in my brain right now. The frequency and the dots that it was so strange, but it felt like it was trying to communicate. But it didn't. It was fast. I'm talking about 3.5 seconds. But that 3.5 seconds is burned in my mind for an eternity.
James, did you ever have any subsequent visions or sightings? That's the most unbelievable story I've heard. That's what live radio is about, right? Welcome to our platform. Did you see anything subsequent? That's the most amazing story I've heard. And I love the grandmother trusting you. She trusted you because you're trustworthy. You connected. But anything since then, James?
Over in Iraq, yes, absolutely. Over in Iraq, doing the investigation into this, and actually questioning the, there was one night when we were driving down the road, and something shot past our vehicle. We were probably going about 60 miles an hour, so we were clipping along pretty good. Could it have been a rocket? I don't think so. It could have been an aircraft. 100% it wasn't an aircraft, but I saw that as well as 3 other crew members, and they ran out in front of us. Whatever this thing was ran out in front of us, and it was green. When I saw it going through the sky, I thought, is that a tracer round? You know what I mean? Because tracers are generally can be green, but it wasn't. It was too big, and it made a whoosh sound when it went over. But that night was January the 30th of 2005, and when we got to the bridge, we got attacked at the bridge, probably 2.5 miles up, and something just really felt freaky and bizarre that whole night after seeing that, which kept us on our toes, which probably kept us alive, because these guys were masquerading as Iraqi police, and there were 3 truckloads of them. If you go to my digging history with Gun Truck LT YouTube site and scroll down the videos, we've got videos of the guys we captured that night. But they essentially drove up in these Iraqi police vehicles and got out and yelled, "Hello!" And we said, "Hello!" And they shot at us. They were trying to see who the heck we were, and if we spoke American, that was that was their sign. I didn't know, but they opened fire on us, and of course we opened fire back. Kind of a very short, intense engagement, and then I did something that I didn't normally do, because we were out of the vehicles. We were parked on the overpass of a bridge, but I put my driver in. I said, let's drive down onto these positions, assault through the position, because it was close. So we were responding in a near ambush scenario, but in vehicles, and we drove right through it, man. Crashed right in there and just destroyed these guys. And but I find it odd that sighting occurred that exact same night, and I thought about that since, and then I thought about the Iraqis that were captured, and my God, they were blabbering on to our interpreter. We thought we were going to have to gag them to shut them up, because they were just telling us about these. Gosh, I wish I could remember the Arabic term. There was an Arabic term for alien and then UFO, and they kept saying it over and over and over again. I've got it written down someplace. I'll get it for you. But if I heard it again, it would jog that memory cycle. But
just
there was a lot of it. Yeah.
One comment here, James. Amazing stories. One comment. Are you telling me that Iraqis, that jihadists, because that's what they are, right? Radical jihadists. Are you telling me they surrendered to a UFO? And if so, what's the magic potion there? Can we get more UFOs to have them surrender? How about that? Do we have an answer? Do we have an answer for what's going on? I mean, seriously? Serious stuff.
Well, they surrendered to us. They come running out. They came running out of a hide position. They actually had set up a really good ambush, and they had several triple stacked IEDs. I mean, it would have been a rough day for us had they carried that out. Now, so what I'm going to tell you is not classified information, but it is what they told us. So if anybody's nutty, it's the dang Iraqi insurgents. Okay, it's not me. But when they were captured, they looked pale as a ghost. I mean, they were terrified. Something obviously terrified. So we figured, we had special forces guys in there, and they're pretty wicked dudes. I mean, you think that the boogeyman's got a hold of you. So we thought maybe they had been hit. Until after we started questioning them. They explained this. They said that they had set up an ambush, and through our interpreter, told them that they had, and we found the triple stack IEDs, and we found where they had, you know, they had railroad spikes piled up on top of this thing, and you know, my God, if those would have went off, those railroad spikes, I mean, we would have been just, it would have been a bad day for that before. But they said that these two spaceships, okay, that were green, that changed shapes, had came down and created this huge dust storm around them as they had set up this ambush. And according to them, there were probably 20 of them that were there, and the rest of them disappeared. The only two that were left was these two guys right here. The one insurgent said that a dust storm came down and sucked all his friends up in the dust storm. Okay, that's fact. I mean, it was weird. I'm telling you, us. And when we went out to look, we did find shoes, clothing, weapons, ammunition scattered all over the place. Very few tracks. That was bizarre, to say the least. And then in part of that interrogation, when they saw that dust cloud, that they had went over and hid near a place called the Ziggurat. Area on Nasiriyah, the Valley of all of that area, very biblical place. And they said that they were hiding, and that these two lights came out of the sky, told them that they must surrender. Stop what you're doing. You think that you will die and go to paradise. You will not see paradise today or ever if you don't stop. And they were frantic, man. They were terrified. And you know, it would be a great psyops mission, but there is no psyops mission that did that. You know, so I mean, because I would have known, and I would not even be speaking about it. But these guys surrendered, not just willingly surrendered, but begged us, begged us to take them in, begged us to forgive them, begged us. I mean, begging on their knees, series of barriers. And some of the conscripts from Saddam Hussein's army came running out. I mean, they couldn't kiss your feet enough. You know, it was terrible. And we had, you know, we go in, we had over 1,000 enemy prisoners of war within a couple of hours. Serious business, you know, and it was blooded. You know, but here's two Al Qaeda. No joke. I want to die for Allah. You know, jihadists that willingly surrendered because they saw a UFO or angels, or, you know, always attribute that, you know, to the power of God as well, you know, and maybe that is exactly what was, you know, speaking to their hearts to let them know that you're doing the wrong thing here. But and I don't want to jinx it, but since that time, I've came very close to dying and avoided danger, avoided injuries, avoided car wrecks. You know, after that time, it was, you know, there was a lot of less fear from us on the road. You know, it wasn't that we felt invincible. Let me not say this very clearly. It's not taking things for granted, or God's grace for granted, but God's grace had definitely been on us. It's covered us totally. And from that point forward, we always did our well, but from that point forward, we did it exceptionally well and did it without losing a single. I never lost anybody after that. Never lost a soul after that. That's a fact. Not a person wounded, not a person killed. Had bullets ricochet off helmets, off vehicles. So you take it. Some people say that aliens are bad and they're going to take our. Well, if this was a group of aliens, and and obviously they were our friends, but I think it's more so. I think it's coming from God, man. I really more than anything else. And I think right now you see an increase level of sightings of these things because our world is so chaotic and full of bitterness and hatred and violence, and especially in that part of the world. God don't like that stuff, man. And if these were UFOs, aliens, angels sent from God, they definitely were on our side. I'll just tell you that. So there you go. You got a little more than you bargained for, but that's the truth. And I've got a whole PowerPoint presentation I'll share with you sometime about.
Well, goodness, here we are again. Wow, at least my mic sounds good to me. Val, can your mic work right now?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
No, I can't. So anyhow, here's what we're gonna do. We got major technical issues going on today. I don't know where it's based out of, whether it's based out of our platform, StreamYard, or from other entities or sources. This is really rare, but I'm just going to kind of shut down the broadcast today. I'll tell you what, we had an amazing, amazing show up to this point. And believe it or not, this is going to come out as a nice full show without the technical glitches. But there's a major issue going on to the point where, as producer and as the founder of the Secrets from the Inside Radio Network, I'm going to shut this down, if anything, for security reasons. And just let's regroup. I'll call maybe our IT boys in, maybe make some other calls, whatever. But remember, Mike Russell should be appearing on his own platform, wonderful Facebook Live and X and the other platforms. On Facebook Live, he's still under Russell and Hunter. Listen in, comment, fabulous show. Normally, Mike would do the 12 noon show for Secrets from the Inside Network, but issues on our end, issues on his end as far as the platform as well. And I hope that his show goes well. Today, I'm definitely going to jump on the comments and participate in his show. The nice thing about this is that indeed we simulcast, we partner and stuff, we talk to each other, and I'm going to be just shutting this down and regrouping hopefully next Wednesday. Hello, everybody. 9 a.m. Pacific, hard start Wednesday, continue mission. And that would be noon Eastern. But I'm going to say goodbye for now. And thank you. If you're hearing me okay and stuff, thank you for everybody that listens and follows and stuff. This will be indeed replatformed on my Rumble channel, which is Greg Meekin. Please follow that Rumble channel. Val's work is on X, At Home Media Mom, and Val Olsen News. And so do continue following us, listening to us, all that stuff. But that's going to be the show for today. I'm excited to get back for next week, technical issues aside. Excited to get back to next week. There are people lined up to participate in this broadcast. And indeed, even additional shows that want to add to our Wednesday lineup. Really, really exciting stuff there. But once again, we have to get our ducks in a row here. And I have a funny feeling, I'll just say this. I have a funny feeling there's a lot of stuff going on that's out of our control. And we're going to find that out. So in the meantime, thank you. My Facebook page, my brand new Facebook name is Gregory Meekin. Send me a friend request. Some people know or don't know that I was hacked back in August. So I am singularly on Facebook right now, Gregory Meekin, just like my mother used to call me when she was pissed at me. So send me a friend request. I don't belong to groups anymore. I tend to not even send out fresh friend requests. There's been so much cloning and hacking and stuff going on. But do send me a friend request to Gregory Meekin, and I'll be happy to kind of keep in touch with folks. And most of this stuff comes out as Val knows, right down my Facebook timeline. Anything current, including this show, will come out. I thank from the bottom of my heart Val Olson